So who do you think who's like the game six guy? I know you said Bavetta, but who do you think the game six guy for the NBA is today?
It's tough. I don't know that really anyone's going to go out there and do what Bavetta did, but it seems like Foster and Mark Davis are on a lot of games, important games. Davis primarily for game sixes, I think, and Foster seems to be on a lot of game sevens. So, but knowing those guys in the past, they of course would never talk about like Bavetta talked about it. I mean, we'd be sitting at lunch and he'd flat out tell you, "Hey, I'm the NBA's go-to guy. Right. I'm on this game six for a reason. So, don't fuck up what I'm here to do."
Right.
Or, there were times where he would talk about, games, and you'd be at lunch and he'd say, "You know what? I really screwed over Lamar Odom a couple weeks ago. A couple bad calls on him. They weren't right. I got to take care of them tonight." So you knew Lamar Odom was going to probably go to the line 10, 12 times.
Right.
Score 25 points and be happy that night. And, Miami Heat were going to be at an advantage in that scenario. So, just different things that, were said to me that I shouldn't have repeated and taken advantage of. The referees in the league shouldn't have been doing it, but, I certainly shouldn't have been taking advantage of it and telling at the time people to bet the games.
No, for sure. Because I know last year with the Celtics Bucks game 6, I think Foster was supposed to be on the game, and then I don't know, Bill Simmons and all Twitter were like, "We got the extender, we're gonna win tonight, bet Boston." And then they took him off the game a couple hours before and they said non-COVID illness. They put someone else on. So maybe that's an example of the NBA knowing that fans are catching on, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that happened.
Because they put him on game 4 of Celtics Nets in first round last year because they probably wanted a game 5 with Kyrie.
Maybe not even catching on. Maybe they just don't want the backlash if it doesn't go right.
Right, but I think he was on like game 6 of the Warriors Cavs when LeBron came back 3-1. And I think it was also like that Suns Spurs series.
Yeah, I know a lot of times they're tracking how many teams win with certain referees. I know Eric Lewis, his crew missed a pivotal call that went against LeBron James at the end of the game last week, and they said that he's like 20-2 when he referees the Celtics game. So,
oh really? Yeah.
I guess gamblers are really looking for that now, and it's a situation where there's favorites, or he may know somebody off the floor that's on that team, and they're getting the benefit of some calls, and it happened a lot when I was there. Mathis would have certain players come to his charity golf tournament, and you knew out on the floor that he was going to take care of those players in a different way. And same with guys like Derek Stafford. He hated Pat Riley of the Miami Heat, and he loved Isaiah Thomas, and had some people's phone numbers in his phone, and spent time with them off the floor. And you knew that spilled out onto the floor, and especially somebody like Joe Crawford, who hated Mark Cuban. He would literally stand at the foul line during timeouts, stick his hands down his pants, grab his nuts, shake them while looking at Mark Cuban, and laugh.
Really?
And Mark Cuban, complained so much about it that, he had a camera during timeouts totally focus on Crawford, and he finally stopped doing it. But it's funny, we would be in the locker room in Dallas and everybody would be afraid to talk because they thought Cuban bugged the locker room.
Wow, that's funny. That's interesting.
Yeah. No. So as a ref, you guys didn't like Mark Cuban that much.
No, it's funny. I personally liked him a lot. I thought he was a great guy even to this day. I just emailed with him last week. I think he's a great guy. I think he got the short end of the stick from the referees because, and he was right in the fact that, the referees early on, didn't put the work ethic in that you should for making the amount of money that we made. And he was someone that wanted the referees to have computers, to be responsible to watch more tape. And, a lot of the older guys were furious and hated the fact that, after the game, you had to watch the game and review the tape. And, but it was only something that was going to make you better. So when he came in, he really complained to the point where he wanted, this done. And all the older guys hated him because at the time, Eddie T. Rush was a supervisor of officials, and he would tell everybody this is because of Mark Cuban. And he hated Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban hated him. So, there were some things there, and a lot of guys, to ingratiate themselves with the supervisor, who was Ed Rush, they stuck at the Cuban. And, it's unfortunate that they did it, but they did. And, I think there was a Miami Heat series where in the finals with Dallas where, Bennett Salvatore stuck it to, the Dallas Mavericks because of Cuban. And, there was a couple other guys that would do it too. So, personally, I liked Mark Cuban. I think that everything he wanted to implement was stuff that was going to make the referees better.
For sure.
Yeah, that series where they were up 2-0 on the Heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they lost in 6, right? Yeah.
And then the other owner, because you mentioned, I think, 2 owners that I guess created more work for the refs, or how the reffing community looked at the owners. The one was Mark Cuban, the other was Robert Sarver. Obviously, everyone knows about Robert Sarver now, but I feel like I didn't really know anything about Robert Sarver 2010. What made kind of Robert Sarver?
There's a difference between him and Cuban. Cuban, he was adamant. He yelled at the referees, but he didn't come at you in an evil, vindictive way. The guy Sarver was just a total asshole from the beginning to end. I don't really think he knew anything about basketball. I think Cuban knew a little bit about basketball and was learning. But this guy Sarver was just a complete jerk off from beginning to end, sat right there courtside and just would berate you from the opening tap till the end of the game.
Yeah. Actually, I know the Timberwolves owner sits courtside every game too. If you remember that, maybe you don't.
Yeah, it's funny because the guy in Boston, I forget his name, how to say his name. He's got a funny last name, but he was giving me shit one time, and he was sat right underneath the basket. And finally, I had enough, and I turned and said something to him, and he said something to me, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm throwing this guy out." And I go over to the scores table. And I said, "You see that guy over there underneath the basket?" I said, "Get security and get him the fuck out of here." And the guy goes, Tim, wait a minute, come here." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Did you know that's the owner?" I said, "It is?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "All right, forget it." Because it was going to cause me more trouble throwing him out,
right.
With paperwork. And, that's the last thing you want to do is be throwing owners because they have a lot of power. So
right.
I just said, "Oh, forget it." And I just ignored him. And I ended up seeing one of the scouts the next day in the airport. And he said that everybody there was laughing so hard about, what you said to him, and you were going back and forth to him. I said, "Yeah, I didn't know he was the owner." I said, "I didn't think you knew."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's funny.
I can't stop. I'm on the way to the top. Got another flight to hop. I can't stop. Got a new whip and a lot. Got a new crib. I'm a cop. I won't stop. Got a whole family and friends. Everybody needs